I know we're streaming on both now. So welcome both our Facebook viewers and our YouTube viewers. This week, for those who remember, I'm Julian. I used to be a team lead on the member operations team. And to my left, I guess, we have Daniel. Hey, Daniel, how you doing?
Back again. Glad to see you. I am still on the member operations team. So I am unchanged. I am eternal.
Yeah, that is true. That is a good call out. But yeah, Daniel, to start off, while we let people, trickle in and watch us, Daniel, I heard you had a very great experience for the first time today. Can you tell us a little about your first Five Guys experience?
Yes, I can. So I don't know if all of you know this. Julian is a bit of a Five Guys partisan. So there are certain camps of fast food consumption in Scott's Cheap Flight. Some people do not like Five Guys as much as others. I grew up in Indiana, so we got Five Guys late. I didn't have it growing up. It was something that I didn't experience until later in life, specifically today. And it was pretty outstanding. I love a good basic burger, fries, milkshake. Haven't had one in months since I've kind of been, socially distancing. So it was a doubly outstanding experience for me to, participate in a great American brand and also get back to some fast food.
There you go. Do you have the fries as well, Daniel?
Yeah, I did. I didn't get like the super mega scoop of them because I was doing takeout. So like I did like Uber Eats. So it was, I didn't get like the full heaping experience, but they were tasty.
Yeah. Five Guys fries are quite good. I've had this conversation with Scott before on burgers, and luckily we share similar views, or else we might be this whole Facebook Live that we had might have just been arguments and debates. But luckily, what were you saying?
Switch on this broadcast, so if it's not going your way, you're
right. Exactly. Oh man, I could talk burgers and which ones are best for this whole half hour. But anyways, thank you all for joining us again. This is the Scott Cheap Flight's weekly Facebook Live. I'm Julian, and here with us we have Daniel. Please drop any questions, any comments, what burger chain you think is the best in the comments down below, and we'll try to get to as many as possible this week. But yeah, Daniel, let's just hop right into the questions. The first question that we have is from Nancy. Hi, Nancy. She asks, what should I look for in price to get to Paris from Denver? Daniel, any thoughts to start off there?
Well, I think it definitely depends on when you're going, because something that we talked about last week is that if you're thinking about going to Europe next summer, now is the time to buy. We're in that off season that we usually see the best prices for, 6 to 8 months down the road. So I think if you're saying I want to go next July or August, 500s from Denver is not out of the question. That's definitely not the best price you're ever going to get. We definitely see 400s, 300s. That tends to be more of a shoulder season, off season price. So I think if you said I have kind of a fixed window of when I need to go next summer, now's the time. Don't be too picky. Low 500s is pretty great for high season, but you can definitely do better if you're flexible, kind of looking more in the abstract for the longer term. I would hold out for at least 400s then if you're thinking kind of later than September or something like that.
Yeah. I think that's, I wouldn't change anything about your answer there. I think flexibility is key. I think that really is Scott's motto. If Scott himself had a motto, it would be, the best prices you'll get are when you're flexible with your traveling. Now, of course, not everyone is lucky enough to be flexible. Sometimes you have set dates. Sometimes you have places you need to go at certain times. But the more flexibility you have in your travel, that is when you're going to have the cheaper dates, the cheaper tickets in general. So, cool. Moving on, Dean, Shake Shack is awesome. I do like Shake Shack, and living in New York now, I feel like it's almost illegal for me to say that Shake Shack is not good or Shake Shack is not my favorite. I think my biggest gripe with the burger argument is that people are always like Shake Shack or In-N-Out. And while I think both establishments are great, I think it should be Shake Shack, In-N-Out, or Five Guys. I feel like Five Guys deserves a fighting chance in that equation. But yeah, anyone else who has their opinions, please let us
I'll
know.
tell you something sad is that my high school favorite of Steak and Shake has unfortunately closed, I believe, all of its franchises in Indiana, where I am right now. So that was a big casualty of the pandemic.
Oh, yikes. Yeah, I've never had that before. And now I'm sad I will not do that, or will not get to have that. So that's a shame. On that note, moving on to our next question. Bree asks, do you think Southwest will extend their open middle seat policy? Dan, you look like you have thoughts right off the bat.
I was thinking about this because Delta, of course, did just extend their policy. I am kind of thinking that Southwest won't for a couple of reasons. One, because Delta is always trying to put itself in this premium brand position, right? So they're trying to look more premium. They're trying to get people to acknowledge the fact that they're paying more for that product. I suspect Southwest isn't going to try and do that. They're interesting in that they're coming through the pandemic so far in a very good financial position. But, they are started reaching that point where they're kind of contemplating a lot of the cuts and sort of financial issues that a lot of other carriers reached months ago. So, I think if it meant like not extending middle seats could help them avoid layoffs by having, higher load factors on their airplanes, I think they would do that. So I wouldn't say no, they won't, but I would be surprised to see them do it, unless everyone else is going along with it. I think that'll be the key. I would expect like United or American or something almost to copycat more than Southwest at this point.
Yeah, were you actually? That's a question. That's a good question, Daniel. Were you surprised by Delta's open middle seat announcement, or to the extension of it? Were like any part of that surprised you?
I wasn't really surprised, but I certainly wasn't expecting it. Because that was the thing for a long time early in the year. Every time they extended it, I was like, yeah, I kind of figured that would happen. But this time, no. It was a little bit out of the blue because they weren't reacting to anything as far as I can see, aside from the fact that, I think this was a phrase I used in our meeting yesterday. Animal spirits are a little low right now for the travel industry. Like, I feel like there's a bit of fatigue, I think, amongst passengers. There's kind of a low ebb despite good news about vaccines and things like that. I think, I think Delta is trying to drum up some excitement and kind of, maybe they're just not selling those tickets anyway. They're like, if no one's buying these seats anyway, we might as well get a good few.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I think, I guess I would probably put it the same way. I wasn't shocked that they did that, but I wasn't like counting down the days. Like, all right, when is Delta going to extend their open middle seat policy or anything? So
yeah, exactly.
That's an interesting one. Arturo asks, hi Arturo. My wife and I are going to Spain in July, and my relatives are interested in joining us. Fun. Any chance of any sales coming up?
So I would think so. Yeah. I mean, it depends on where they're coming from. So I'm assuming you've already got your tickets and they're going to join you kind of separately from some other city. I would definitely assume that there will be for July. I would say don't hang around too long, though. I think probably you're in a similar position to who was it up in Denver? Nancy. I would probably have very similar advice there in the sense that, if you're coming from from the Midwest or, somewhere off of the coast, kind of look out for high 400s to 500s, probably from a lot of cities. But if you're in a big hub, New York or something like that, there are these $300 or $400 fares that are hanging around. Especially if you're in a city that's served by like TAP Portugal or something like that. Those $200 fares that we've seen in the past are still there. One thing to be cognizant of, though, of course, is that a lot of the ticket flexibility and refund policies for different airlines have splintered a little bit, so they don't all look the same now. So I would just double check that. If you're seeing a really great deal, just make sure, okay, this has got terms and conditions that I'm comfortable with.
Yeah. I mean, pre-coronavirus, I would say there might be a sale coming up, but July peak summer is always going to be, a little tougher, a little rarer. But like we saw this year, peak summer fares really did not increase or go up as much as we've seen in the past, of course, due to low numbers and coronavirus. And I don't see too much of a change going, at least for the next year so far. if there are huge announcements, huge changes within the next 2 months, maybe peak summer tickets go up again. But I really, it doesn't look like there will be that same peak summer ticket prices that we've seen pre-coronavirus. So.
Or maybe another way to put it, there probably will be, but that will probably occur a lot later. It's kind of like what we're seeing right now with these flights, is that, up until about 6 weeks ago, Christmas flights and Thanksgiving flights were just dirt cheap. Normally that's something you would have had to have booked a lot further ahead. And I think that might be true for Europe next summer too, is that, if the virus situation has changed significantly, everyone's going, great, but they might not buy their tickets till May. So,
that's a good point.
We'll hit those usual peak summer prices sometime, but it'll just be a little unpredictable. But I would say trawl for those bargains now. Especially since you already have fixed dates. I think that's the key. Like, you already know when this is going to happen, so you're not very flexible. Right. So I would be a little less picky as a result of that.
Going back to that flexibility, it's all about that flexibility. Barry asks us, what are your thoughts on JetBlue entering the transatlantic market? Think we'll start seeing lower prices amongst airlines to London? Daniel, I know you have opinions on this one.
I have very high hopes about this. This is something that's interesting to go back to, though. So I think, is this going to lead to lower economy class prices? I'm not so sure, because the London market is so saturated. Because if we think back to last year, what we were seeing, it was just crazy. Like, you would have these days when British Airways, which is has a ton of service to the United States, to a lot of very small airports like Nashville, Tennessee, and places like that. They would just have these days where all nonstop flights to London would be $200, $300 round trip on BA. And that was crazy because there's just so much capacity to London. But I think if you kind of look at the other question, will JetBlue Mint depress East Coast to London business class prices? I sure hope so. I think there's a good chance that could happen, at least for a while. I think it'll be interesting to see, do other airlines price match? How aggressive does JetBlue be? Because the interesting thing that we've learned, and I don't think this is 100% confirmed, but it seems to be the case, is they didn't get the Heathrow slots they wanted. At least they haven't yet. So it seems like they're going to try and split service to Gatwick and Stansted. Actually, I don't mind Gatwick. I know some people that really are like Heathrow or bust. I don't personally feel
is that a thing? I unfortunately I don't know of that, but maybe I'm missing out.
I don't care personally. It depends on where you're going in the UK, obviously. I don't know, Heathrow's fine, but I don't have a particular love of it. But definitely, business travelers seem to like it better. They might be able to pick up those Heathrow slots later, but I kind of wonder. It's like, if you're flying Boston to Stansted, I wonder that alone will kind of drop the premium pricing a bit for JetBlue. So I would love to see. Let me put it this way: I'm hoping that when those go on sale next year, at least for that first week until the initial inventory is exhausted, I'm hoping that JetBlue is just going to blow it out of the water in terms of fares. Yeah. So, once we know when those flights are going on sale, I just set that price alert and see what they're going to offer, kind of like a promo. I would bet there'd be a crazy promo, 1,000, 1,200 round trip would be super cool, and they might do it. And I think it will have then kind of a positive long-term impact, but it won't be probably at that initial very low price permanently. So that would be my guess.
Yeah, right off the bat, I agree. And also, it's one of those things for consumers, for passengers like us. Competition is always going to be a good thing. The more competition there is, usually the prices are going to lower. Of course, as Daniel said, it matters on when, off the bat, down the line. But generally, usually when airlines are entering different markets and competing with other airlines, that's almost always a good thing for us, which is always good. I was hoping someone was going to bring this up, and Marietta did. She says, got my South America deal this week, Atlanta to Santiago for $62 round trip, booked for March 2021. Thank you for sharing the deal. I tried to find the words for this deal, but $62 round trip was, I think off the bat, already in the running for one of the best deals that we've sent this year.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Daniel?
I'm excited. I booked it to Brazil, so because I went to Chile last year, so I'm hopefully going to Brazil at a similar price point. Yeah, I'm excited, and Delta seems to be honoring it. That's the important thing. It's weird because a lot of the other mistake fares that we've done, especially to Asia, they seem to get more buzz. This one, I didn't see it like picked up in other news outlets nearly as much or anything like that. So it seems like it kind of came in at an interesting time where it slid in a bit under the radar because people probably just aren't looking quite as acutely right now.
Yeah.
So I wonder if those of us who bought it, we kind of got it at a good time, where Delta's kind of willing to say, hey, I guess I'll let that slide. We're just not going to go there in terms of trying to mess with this fare. So it's great.
I mean, I think I was in a meeting or I was on a call when I saw these fares come through, and like what the whole team, all four, the five of you guys, were working on this deal, and I was stunned at the price. I mean, under $200 would have been amazing, but the fact that it was under $100 round trip to some place like Santiago too, like it what a deal.
And Chile's a great place to visit too. That's a lot of fun down there.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, we say this all the time. Mistake fares are truly our bread and butter. When they come through, we're always super excited. We're
more excited to publish it than you are to buy it.
Honestly, yeah, I think that is true. I mean, I can't even find the correct words to express how excited I am for this deal. So I'm really, really glad that people booked it, were able to find it, and really, just amazing overall. I'm very glad that this deal came through. Whew. Bree says Muya is awesome, better than Five Guys. I've never had that. We have a few recommendations here, so I might have to add them to the list. Dina says The Habit is best. I've actually heard of The Habit. I think it's like Habit Burger. I've never gone though. So another place I need to add to the list. Grace says Gott's Hamburgers of SF All right. Next time I'm there, I have to try that out. And then I think John probably has the most accurate answer when asked about the Shake Shack, In-N-Out, Five Guys debate. And he says just all of them. And I don't think he's wrong. I think that's probably the best way to go about it.
So there's no Julian's Hamburger Grand Tour here in the future?
No, maybe. Who knows? I mean, road trip ideas are always exciting. I know in our domestic sends, we're starting to send more road trip, national park type deals. Maybe down the line, we're going to start sending a U.S. domestic hamburger tour. I don't know. Options are endless. But moving forward, yeah, were you going to say something, Daniel?
No.
Oh, okay. Moving forward, Barbara asks, best time/price to go to French Polynesia.
It's funny. I don't feel like French Polynesia deals are very seasonal, which is weird. You would think it would be. What we tend to see, so it depends a little bit on where you're located, because nonstop flights to Tahiti out of San Francisco and LAX, they come out more often than you would think, but they don't usually go deeper into the rest of the United States is the tricky part. So like you don't generally see, like if you get a $500 fare or even less in some cases fare out of San Francisco, the connecting flights on that don't generally drop very much. So what I would suggest doing is, if you're not in California, I would definitely subscribe to San Francisco and LAX, because probably it would actually be worth it for you to reposition from somewhere else to catch one of those. So they'll almost always be on United, or sometimes you'll see them on a budget carrier called French Bee, which we send occasionally. And they do some stuff like charge for bags and food and stuff, but they're not bad. I mean, the prices they put out are great. So, you can kind of take your pick there in terms of what's a priority. But trying to think we haven't seen very many Tahiti fares since COVID came through, which is too bad. But let me check and see here what some of our average pricing is looking like, because we've definitely seen a lot of 500s in the past, nonstop out of California. 600s are not bad. Like I think 600s is pretty good. 500s is very good and definitely comes up frequently. It is kind of what I would hold out for if you don't have like a specific date when you're going. And then kind of think about what fits for your schedule in terms of getting to California, if that's what you need to do.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think, even from the deals that I mainly remember, I think we've consistently seen LA and SF have consistently, I would say, the best prices that come out of it. So definitely one thing to look at. Yeah, that's great. Ryan asked, do you think Southwest will do a credit card promotion in early 2021 for Companion Pass as they did 18 months ago?
That's a tough one. I would be tempted to say that they wouldn't be quite as good as what they did last time, just because I don't know. I think there's a lot of people who are just not looking at the Companion Pass like they did before. So my guess would be no, but that's not to say that there aren't some pretty compelling offers out there right now. I mean, there's just so many record-setting like welcome bonuses on these cards right now. So so at least like the raw amount of points that you get from signing right now is really good. I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't want to say no, but I'm not feeling super bullish about it.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm too familiar with a lot of the Southwest Companion Pass and credit card promotions, but I think generally from what I've been seeing, it kind of falls in line with what you said, where the offers are probably not as good as the ones that they've had before. So, I do have one topic I wanted to talk to you about today, Daniel. But before we hop into that, I wanted to show one of the best comments that we receive, some of the best feedback that we get, and those are testimonials that we get. So Dina says, in the 2 years since we've become premium Scotties, I love that. Our family of 4 has traveled to Japan, England, Portugal, Italy, Switzerland, and Belgium, and saved probably close to $10,000.
Wow.
So thank you. Yeah, I mean, you're more than welcome, Dina. Booked to go to Greece from San Francisco for $523 round trip in July. So fingers crossed. That's just, I mean, that's amazing. That's, I think I for sure can speak for Daniel as well, that this is why we do it. We're always excited when great deals come through, and we're even more excited when our members book them. That's why we're here. That's fully why we're here. So very, very happy to hear that, Dina. And I also hope you're able to go to your trip to Greece. Daniel, what are your any thoughts there?
Well, I think that's outstanding, and I hope there's some of the ones I've written. Is always what I think. It's always kind of neat to. It's always neat to see people interacting with the content that we put out, because it's interesting. Like we see like some diagnostic numbers of who reads these things, but it's fun when we can kind of bring it down to an individual and say, wow, this person was impacted by something that we did. And so nice work.
Yeah. Sorry if you hear the background noise. I live in New York City, and that's unfortunately there's just constant background noise there. But yeah, I think that's always funny, Daniel, when, like, obviously we're always excited when our members book any of the deals that we send, but there is, especially for flight searchers, and I remember this obviously, is people booking your deal. Like there is some type of ownership for when you put out a deal. You search
Absolutely.
it up, you write it, and you're the one sending it out. There's no better feeling there. So
we should have a game show sometime where you try and match the deal to the person who wrote it.
I think unofficially we've done that a few times. I think you can usually tell by the write-up and stuff. So the deals in the past year may be a little harder to figure out, but yeah, not a bad idea. So what I did want to bring up, a topic that may be on a few people's minds, the news of the 737 MAX possibly being ungrounded very soon. So wanted to get a little more into that, and wanted to get your thoughts on that, Daniel.
I think it's one of these things that I think it kind of seems like a non-entity at this point after all that the aviation industry has gone through. But it'll still be a little time before they're back in the schedule, except I think American has them on the schedule for early 2021. Yeah, I think it's exciting though for the most part. Like for me, I don't feel unsafe flying one. I never actually flew them when they were in service before, but I think it's exciting because it's going to open up a lot of new routes. It's going to let the airlines kind of deal with a lot of these fleet losses they've had in terms of retiring older planes. We've kind of seen a lot of older, less fuel efficient planes just kind of go out of fleets entirely. So it'll be a little bit greener to fly with these. But I am kind of curious to see if it's something that's still in people's minds 20 months later after the grounding. Like that's what's really interesting to me, is to see what the to see what the reaction, if any, of the flying public is when when these are back in the schedule. Because I think overall it's not something I worry about personally, but it's something that I think will be interesting to see how airlines choose to navigate.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good question. I mean, for even our viewers now, would you, just your next flight is on the 737 MAX. Are you comfortable flying it? Are you not comfortable flying it? I mean, there's even, I saw the news that there are some travel agencies that are working to say like, hey, if you come work with us, like we'll make sure if you want to avoid the 737 MAX, we'll add that as a filter even. Which I didn't really think about before, where people are like, I'm 100% not comfortable flying the 737 MAX. I need to get on a flight that's not on that plane. So it's really interesting that even, travel agencies are like, well, we'll work with you on that. We'll make sure that your flight is not on this specific aircraft. I don't know. Yeah, I just think that's a super interesting development from this.
Yeah, I tend to think people have short memories about these things, but we'll see. I think this will be an interesting one to revisit when it's really in service again, because there's obviously a lot of work to do. There's still modifications, pilot training, and all these things that can now go forward and have to be completed. So Exactly. It won't be an overnight thing. But it'll be interesting because I mean these planes are just parked. They're all there. There's going to be this huge fleet that's ready to go back into service once demand and capacity is ready to go for next summer, which I think is fascinating. Like it's interesting for me to think through the logistics of this in terms of like the amount of capacity that exists in modern aviation that is kind of out of service now but ready to jump back in.
Yeah. It's I see a comment from Victoria here. Hi, Victoria. That I think sums it up a good amount, where she goes, I honestly forgot about the 737s in the midst of 2020 drama.
I mean, I feel you. I mean, that's how I am, except that it's my job.
I can't say it better myself. I know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think if it wasn't something that we had to, keep an eye on or keep track of almost on a daily basis, I think I would be right in that camp as well. So very, very interesting. Let's do one final question and then some comments that I want to quickly get to. Izhar says, do you have stats on holiday travel? Are people booking for the holidays? Daniel, any insights there?
So I don't have the raw numbers. Because we're still basically down quite a bit from what we were last year, right? So the overall, not nearly as many people are traveling now as they were in 2019, but those numbers have kind of steadily ticked up, throughout the year. What I think is really interesting, though, is that airlines, you can see from their schedules, don't really know what they don't really know what to do. Something like I mentioned this last week. There was a really interesting announcement from United Airlines that basically said they're trying to take a data-driven approach to doing everything at the last minute. They're basically saying like, we don't really know what Thanksgiving demand even is going to be. So we're thinking we have 1,500 extra flights we could put into the schedule. We'll just kind of mess around with it. And it's crazy to think that airlines are doing that, because normally these schedules would be, something they would decide on very incrementally. They would kind of put them in concrete 2 or 3 months ahead of time, at least. Like the idea that you wouldn't know what schedule you're flying over what is typically the busiest travel day of the year. Crazy. Exactly. I mean, it just goes to show that a lot of their modeling was not really prepared for something like this. So they're kind of improvising, and every airline's doing it differently. So yeah, I mean, that said, a lot of people are traveling. There's going to be a lot of people on the roads for sure. So I think it's, I don't know. I was going to say, is it optimistic or not? I feel like kind of from what we've seen, there's been a bit of an anecdotal drop off in terms of bookings and sort of general engagement with travel over the last week or two. So I think, even if the holidays are busy, January and February probably won't be very much. It's kind of more relevant, I think, to the fortunes of airlines at the moment. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I can't, I don't know them off the top of my head, but I think it'll be really interesting to see how the end of this year, especially with a lot of these developments, these rapid testing, the news of, vaccines and all of that stuff, and the vaccine trials and tests. It'll be interesting to see exactly, how that affects bookings and flights, and just kind of the general thinking towards travel, and how people react to that. So, yeah. Cool. Just to get a few more comments in here, Barbara says, I have also been a premium member for around 2 years. Thank you very much, Barbara. That's very exciting. However, during the pandemic, I am armchair shopping for flights.
Yeah, me too.
100%, which is a fun hobby. It really is. But yeah, of course, looking forward to booking again. I think we're really all in that camp. So excited, definitely excited for when we're going to be able to be traveling again, especially internationally. Brian says, I am gun shy to book another trip for summer 2021 because I am owed over $2,000 in airline credits from this year. I'm sorry to hear that. I know there are a lot of people in that camp of airline credits. Daniel? What's your airline credits looking like? I feel like you also accrued a good amount.
I believe, because United Airlines told me, I have $731 in airline credits right now, and I'll tell you what I'm doing with them, because a lot of these long haul waivers. So like if you wanted to book a flight to Europe or Asia or something like that, the ability to book that in a flexible way may expire at the end of this year. So we know that United and most of these other airlines have removed change fees for flights within the U.S. or within North America, so like relatively short haul. I'm kind of viewing those as an investment. Like there's something that they're not going to appreciate in value, so I might as well put them into routes that I think will be expensive or that I might not be able to book as easily in the future. So like for me, I'm kind of looking ahead to say like next September, next October, at the end of the schedule, how could I use those credits wisely for something cool, that's probably going to go off just fine in terms of like being able to actually travel where I want to go and be able to do what I want to do once I get there. So that's my philosophy, is like, put them to use for something. You can always cancel it and try again if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, there you go. That's definitely a strategy, and kind of a good outlook on using the credits that unfortunately you are not able to use with the original flight. So
the other aspect of that too is then if you can, at least if they cancel your itinerary too, you can try and jockey for refunds there. It's always a fun one.
There you go. As you can tell, this is what Daniel does for fun, and this is, honestly, what a lot of us do for fun. So can't even blame him for that. And finally, to end us for today, Victoria again says, y'all, just want to say thank you for the Chilean Mistake Fair. Going there for $160 round trip, and we'll actually afford to see Easter Island.
That's a really smart one too, booking those Easter Island flights, because like it's great when you can do those relatively long haul domestic flights, within South America. It's kind of the same if you're going to like Galapagos or something like that, but that's a real smart one to pick that up.
There you go. Not only a great comment to end on, but you have, Victoria, you've now gotten a compliment from our very own Daniel. So to say that is rare is an understatement. So you should feel very flattered and honored right there. But cool. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this week. Thank you, Daniel, so much for hopping on this Facebook Live. And if we didn't get to your question, I'm sorry. We'll try to get through as many as possible. We'll also be here next week at a new time, actually. Scott will be joining me, and we will be doing our Facebook Live next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, trying to see, if different times are more convenient for other people. So in the comments, also let us know if there's a time that you find convenient or find that's better than, what we've been doing. So with that, thank you, everyone, and I'll see you next week.